Welcome again, friends, to another episode of Soaring Through Chaos. As I've said many times before, the purpose is to help all of us navigate through these challenging, chaotic times. And I am always looking for people who have taken the road less traveled, have journeyed through challenges, and maybe a few words of wisdom or just hearing their story could help us understand that in the chaos, in being accepting the chaos, in accepting the challenges and going beyond it, going through it, there's a possibility of wisdom, there's a possibility of learning. And here's Tripura Kashyap. I consider her one of my teachers in India. She's an amazing dance movement therapist. Let's hear in your own words. Tripuraji, please, thank you for joining us. Tell us a little bit about your life journey and how you ended up starting CMTAI, the Creative Movement Therapy Association of India, right? Tell us
Right,
whatever you want
right.
to tell us.
Okay. First of all, Shankar, thank you so much for inviting me on your program, and it's a pleasure to be here. Um, I I was a classical dancer, and I got into dance therapy because of my brother, who was on a wheelchair because of cerebral palsy. And whenever
Oh,
he'd heard music, whenever he'd hear music, he'd jump out of his wheelchair and get very excited. And I used to wonder how can something like dance be useful to someone on a wheelchair? And that's how the whole thought process happened. And coincidentally, I met Dr. Grace Valentine from the Hancock Centre in Madison, Wisconsin, who was traveling through India in 1986, maybe. And I met up with her. It was a coincidence. And then when she heard of my interest in wanting to use dance with people with disabilities, she invited me to Hancock to study dance therapy. So I was there at the studio over there, and I was there training, studying theory, or kind of going for a lot of classes, being an apprentice with her, and that's how I got into it. And then much later, in 1990, I came back to India. I pioneered dance therapy in India, in fact, in Bangalore, which is my hometown in a way. And much later, when I began running courses in dance therapy, just short certificate courses, some people from the course, some students said, hey, listen, why don't we do a study circle? Let's kind of, because we feel lost after the course. So that's how it began. We became a study circle, and out of that was born CMTAI, which you mentioned, the Creative Movement Therapy Association of
wow,
India.
wow. You know what
Yeah.
I just realized? You and I were actually in the Midwest at the same time. My wife Seema
Wow.
and I ended up at the University of Iowa, and we were in Iowa. I was there until 1990. So you were in the land of milk and honey, whereas I was in the land of cows and pigs. you know, Wisconsin is considered the dairy state, and
Yeah.
Iowa is considered the land of cows and pigs.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding, but we loved visiting Madison, and we loved being in Iowa. That's where we fell in love and all that stuff. But
Wow.
it's interesting also that most people associate all kinds of.
Shankar, your voice is also going down a lot,
Acha,
the
yeah.
volume.
Yeah,
I don't know
okay, I'll
why.
make sure that I get closer to the mic then. The good news is that the recording goes smoothly. It's just we can't hear each other sometimes. That's true. Can you hear me well now?
Absolutely.
Okay, so yeah, Midwest in America is considered very conservative, but again, when they adopt something, they go deep, deep, deep. Whether it's engineering or agriculture or it's dance. Did you know there are yoga studios all around the Midwest now, which wasn't the case in the 80s at all?
Wow. That's amazing.
There's not a single
Yeah.
Indian restaurant in the state of Iowa at that time. But today you're going to find all kinds of interesting influences
Hmm.
from East and West. I mean, in fact, the first Indian store was East West, they called it. So please tell us what inspired you to bring it in, like when you brought it to India, what is the reception like? Because in India, folk dancers have been there for thousands of years. Um, how are you able to bring the therapeutic aspect to it? or at least the formal
Okay.
therapeutic aspect to it?
So, yeah, when I came back to India, there was a bit of anxiety. How am I going to introduce something like this, to people who don't really know what is dance as therapy? They know it as performance. And yes, you're right. Our country is full of, so thousands and thousands of dance forms and styles. And yet, most ordinary people are scared of the word dance. The moment you say dance, they run. So I began by calling it creative movement therapy. Yeah, the word creativity came in. There was the word movement, and then there was also therapy at the end. And when I went to different schools, different special schools, hospitals, halfway centers, treatment centers, they were very open to the idea. They said, "Look, come and try it with us. We are open to it." And so, in fact, Bangalore has always been that way. It's a very receptive place. They're always looking for something that's new, something that's different. So I started off like that, offering my services in dance therapy to different kinds of organizations. In fact, interestingly, it was a psychology people who were really interested in dance as therapy, not so much the performing arts field itself. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
it's really strange because one of my gurus in Kalakshetra,
Oh, you
because that's
also
where I
studied
trained in
Kalakshetra,
dance. Yes,
Bharatanatyam.
yes.
Wow.
Yeah, Bharatanatyam for 4 years, diploma. So, in fact, when I went back there, one of my gurus, I remember asking me, "Oh, but our country is so rich with dance forms. Why did you have to go there and learn a Western dance form?" So, that was a kind of reaction from the performing arts field. Whereas
Yes.
from other disciplines like social work, psychology, they were very interested. So in fact, I'm so glad that I kind of pioneered it here, and it's gone. I also got something called the Ashoka Fellowship,
Yes.
Ashoka Foundation, that gave me the fellowship to travel around India to train people through workshops in dance therapy, and secondly, to also explore the therapeutic potential in Indian dance forms. So these were
Yes.
the two reasons why I got and the fellowship, and it was a very exciting period to explore not just dance therapy but also the indigenous forms and styles that can become therapeutic.
Honestly, I mean, I was so thrilled when I found out about you because I had spent 2 years, 2018 and 2019, going around India. Initially, made the mistake of calling it dance for transformation and all that, and then changed it to movement for transformation. I don't use the word therapy because I'm not a trained therapist, but I've been dancing regularly with dance therapists and like five rhythms, soul motion, beer dance since 2003. So, but
Mm.
never had I didn't go to the formal, I went to the formal in neuroscience of happiness and neuroscience of, but it is so necessary. And even the
Mm.
therapeutic aspect is ancient in India, whether it's in Bharatanatyam with all the alankaras and all the different, what do you call, the mudras and all the different postures, or in, Kalbelia, for example, from Rajasthan, where becoming one with chaos in the desert land of the Rajasthan and the third desert. So many things. Please tell us what you learned when you traveled around India and all the different folk dances and the therapeutic aspects of that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So when I traveled in India and I started training people, or at least exposing them to movement activities, because see, if you've traveled around quite a lot, and even now movement is not being used in many of the special schools or hospitals. It's not used enough, and the body is completely like ignored. People only pay attention to what's happening here. So, and I feel movement is our universal mother tongue. Everyone can speak it. And it's so important. We were born with movement. That's the first thing we did in our mother's womb, right? We moved, we stretched, we expanded, we contracted. And
Yes.
as we get into adulthood, if you look around, more and more movement has shrunk to the tips of our fingers thanks to our smartphones. Yeah. So I feel like people don't really use movement, and that's one of my passions in life. In fact, even when I came back, I traveled the length and breadth of India. I went to small towns, cities, working with special educators, teachers, therapists, just doing 2 day workshops of what kind of movement activities can they use with the children or adults that they work with. And I developed something called a movement activity basket. Yeah. And it
Wow.
had two kinds of activities. One was from creative dance, where you explore your own personal movement language. And the other was, how can you use Indian dance forms and styles? Like, for example, how can gestures be used as a way of, memorizing, sequencing material? How can it be used to create a story and express that stories? In fact, it's very close to sign language used with children who are deaf and mute. And then I also looked at facial expressions, the navras, the 9 emotions that can be transformed into creative exercises to get people to express navras through their bodies. I also looked at footwork from Kathak, the
Wow.
variety that's there. And I also looked at folk dances, the kind of circular movements they have, the rhythm development that happens, the sounds that you can make, hitting different parts of your body. So I looked at a lot of intricate small elements and movement ideas in our own dance forms, and I used to use them in my therapy sessions with clients, with training programs. And so in that sense, I feel it's very important to meld what you've learned in the West with what's locally available. I really believe in that. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
your CMTAI, the Creative Movement Therapy Association of India, holds annual conferences and also regional workshops and meetups. I was very fortunate to be there at CMTAI in Pune. Was that in October of last year?
November, I think. Yeah,
November,
October. Oh,
November.
yeah, you're right. October,
Yeah,
November.
last
Yeah.
week of November, or around,
Yeah.
yeah, around the month boundary. And the gift that I received, besides amazing learning and meeting with the whole community, was meeting a few people from Mexico, and I ended up going to Chihuahua, Mexico, and learning a little bit of salsa and folklore. They call it folk dances. And then because of the pandemic, staying there for 3 months, learning Spanish and many things. Everything from formal dance to callaíta and so thank you. It's such a blessing. And interestingly, you
Fantastic.
said Kalakshetra. My daughter trained with Sugandha Srinath uh, Kalakshetra, and her sister is the Padma Shri teacher in Chennai. So I don't know if
Oh,
you trained with
okay.
the same people in Chennai and
Uh, No, I mean, for each year in Kalakshetra, I was there for 4 years. We had different teachers.
teachers.
So I don't remember, perhaps she was my, junior,
No,
because once I left.
Sugandha's teacher, Sugandha's sister, is the Padma Shri of Kalakshetra dance form in India. I don't remember her name, but
Okay,
again,
if you tell
we're
me a name, then I can
yeah, we're so blessed to
remember.
have amazing teachers all around India. Uh,
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
what I also liked about Simtai conference was that in addition to dance and movement, you had brought in many other art forms too. And it wasn't just
Yes.
dance. So, please tell us about how you do this integrative dance, performing arts, and even non-perform, like fine arts. How do you bring it all together? And do you do workshops that are a combination of some of these things?
Yeah, I mean, as a dance therapist, you can't but help use music, right? Because you're constantly using music for all the activities you do. And we also use a certain amount of artwork. Like after doing 5 rhythms, maybe people want to sit down and put it on paper what they went through. So you do use artwork, and then we do use a lot of role playing from drama. You see,
Yeah,
so dance in some way is, of course, very strongly interlinked with other arts. And when we started doing these conferences in 2014, I think the one you came for was the sixth one. When we started the conferences in those days, we realized that there was no conference in India for the other art therapies also, like
true.
music, drama, or visual art. And so our conference became not just about dance therapy, but also about inviting music therapists, drama therapists, visual art therapists to also come and explain how their own forms work, and also to look at the connection between dance and the other arts. So that's how in the conference you saw so many people from other media mediums too. And I think it's very important to do that. So our conference is always like an umbrella that invites other art therapists also.
which I loved, and it's even the name Bharatanatyam is not just Nrityam, but Natyam and Nrityam, the drama and the dance together and integrated
Right.
with life, the Navarasas, all the different moods and the
Right.
expressions,
Yeah.
the mudras. There is so much science to it, and
Mm.
it's a blessing that you have blended in the East and the West and the dance and movement and all forms of performing and non even
Absolutely.
like writing as well as drawing, cartooning, therapeutic aspects like the drama therapy, and it's amazing. All I can say
Yeah.
is thank you, because it was amazing to find people literally from around the world, many from India, but really from every part of the world represented, even Latino dances and
Mm.
various forms of Indian dances. What has been the reception like? Are people now using dance and movement as a form of therapy? And has it been used, for example, in clinical settings or in social settings?
Yeah, I mean, now I would say it's spread quite a lot, but I think funding is still an issue. A lot of places, I don't think dance movement therapists are paid very well, because dance is still seen as a form of entertainment, but it's getting much, much better than when I started. At least, like, I know a lot of dance movement therapists who work in hospitals and halfway homes and de-addiction centers, in rehab centers. There are quite a few, and now, of course, because of the pandemic, everyone's gone online and everyone has a lot of individual clients. CMTAI, in fact, we do self-care sessions through movement therapy. We have groups. I've been working with groups online, and I see a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, look, no light at the end of the tunnel kind of a situation, a lot of morbid thoughts. So we've been working through these issues through movement. Like, we've been using a lot of movement, gratitude prayers, working with expressing emotions that are stuck or suppressed, just doing warm up rituals that people can make it as part of their daily ritual. So a lot of online sessions are in fact being used to address issues that are coming up in the pandemic for people. Yeah.
In fact, I attempted doing a couple of healing dances online. What I found easy was my own movement. What I also found easy was the instruction. What I found difficult was instructing people who are new to dance therapy or any kind of movement as healing. Many of my friends who have seen dance as separate from healing or who have never danced, have asked for it, but I'm not able to blend it in because with people who have done it before, it's easy. It's like all we're doing is giving them cues and music. But for inexperienced or new people, how are you able to handle that? Because
Yeah.
the
So
presence is, we need that embodied presence in the room, I feel. And you
absolutely.
must have some way of addressing that.
I've adapted a lot of movement experiences to online sessions, especially with people who have not worked before. And it's worked beautifully. For example, just a very simple exercise like, follow your finger wherever it goes without getting off your chair. Okay. And then let the finger move away. And can you follow that finger? Can you get up and follow that finger wherever it goes? Yeah. So there are very simple exercises that you can do. Even sculptures, just making sculptures sitting down, you know, and these sculptures can help us understand how that person is feeling through the pandemic. What are the emotions or feelings that you're experiencing right now? Can you express it through sculptures? You see, so there are a lot of, or even a tai chi kind of
Yeah.
exercise, that you can do. So I modified quite a few of my movement activities for online, and it's working really well. Because see, I'll tell you, it's easier to do something like creative dance online than teaching a dance class where you
Yes.
have to hold your hand in a particular way. The mudra
Yes.
that you hold has to be really tense. It cannot be this way. But in creative dance, the dance adapts itself to your body. There's nothing like right or wrong. So
That's
if you say follow the finger the way you feel like, that's up to them to follow the way they want to. And there's no
yes.
wrong movement. It's unique to them. So I find, in fact, it's much easier to facilitate these creative movement activities online rather
I-
than teaching a dance form or a style.
I'll have to take your class now because, I missed the whole thing. I was trying to go jump to the next step. That's harder because
Yes,
it has to be done step by step. It's almost
yes,
like knowing the alphabet before you start writing words. So I'm so glad that
absolutely.
you pointed that out. I'll actually
No,
attend
because
your
see,
class.
I just want to add here that, see, suppose in the first session you put on music and say to them, okay, I know you're feeling whatever. Can you just express that? They will freeze
Oh,
because they don't know what is movement language in the first place.
people actually
So I
left the
just want to,
class.
yeah,
Yeah,
I just
sorry.
want to say this very important thing here, where there are 5 stages that I take clients through. The first
Ah,
stage is called movement seeding, where you seed the movement,
yeah, looks
where they
like
have fun with it,
yeah,
where they enjoy it. Third stage is called movement expression, where they begin to express their thoughts and feelings. And the fourth stage is called resolution, because whatever problem they've come with, they're resolving it through movement. So if they have a poor self-awareness and you do a particular movement activity, their self-awareness improves. So they're resolving a problem. And the fifth stage is called integration. So whatever you're learning in a session, can you take it back into your real life? If you were not able to make eye contact, or if you're not able to imitate a movement, but you learned it in the session, can you take it back into your real life and try it out there? So I think if you go through these 5 stages and there are activities for each of these stages, then you can probably kind of, you know, reach out to that person better.
great. And just to recap, it starts with seeding, number one.
Yeah.
Number two is
Exploration,
exploration. Number three is
expression,
expression. Number four is
resolution,
resolution. And then finally, integration
integration.
in number five. Great. I have so much more to learn. I'll have to probably find time to actually do the full, you know, the whole course that you offer. Tell us about that. You have a variety of things I've noticed, not just directly a master's, but you have multiple offerings for people wanting to learn, isn't it? Those who want to go
Yeah.
on the therapeutic side. What are the things that you're offering right now? And I've seen it in many cities already in Pune. Tell us about that also, how it's proliferating throughout India.
Yeah, so we offer certificate courses in movement therapy, and they're like 11 days in a month, 3 months long. And then you also do your internship, which is supervised by the faculty. So you go to an NGO or wherever, and you do your supervised internship, and then you get a certificate from us. We also do a lot of webinars where we invite experts in different aspects of dance therapy, and they do these webinars. And we also have self-care programs where it's all about how can you use movement activities to take care of yourself on a daily basis. We also have something called therapeutic dance in education. How can you use dance in classroom settings, and what is
Great.
therapeutic about it? Or
Wow.
how can you teach math through dance or science through dance? So we also have that. And we also have lot of different programs. The conference is coming up. It's gone online this year. So
Oh,
in November
yes.
end, we have the conference. We're inviting a lot of dance therapists to present, and the whole color of the conference is about the pandemic and the way that the arts are being used therapeutically in these times, yeah, in the new normal
In the new
age.
normal, yeah.
So yeah, so that is there, and yes, the regional chapter. So a lot of things are going on.
And you have now regions as well as now it's happening in many cities, right? Which are the major cities in India? We've got Delhi. You are currently in Delhi yourself,
Yeah,
Bangalore,
so it's happening in
Pune.
Delhi, Bangalore, Pune, Hyderabad, because we have all our students all over in these different places. Bangalore, of course, and Chennai, yeah, um, Jaipur. So the idea
Wow.
is like I also feel like these kind of therapies need to percolate to smaller cities and towns, right? I
Yes.
mean, as you might have experienced in your own work, it need not always remain in the cities.
In fact, we
No,
want it to go everywhere and learn from the local experiences, the local
exactly,
dances,
exactly.
integrating the local and the overall understanding through experiences around the world is very helpful, I find.
Absolutely. Otherwise, it will stay in a certain elite
Yeah,
circle.
exactly. Hawa hawa mein. Or in that
Yeah,
elitist, yeah. We don't want that. We don't want an
exactly.
ivory tower in something as embodied as dance.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So,
So,
so yeah, we are looking at that a bit, and we are
so
trying
we
to
have
work out.
one of the challenges I find is that I offered about more than 300 healing dances here last year. Ahmedabad,
Right.
Baroda, Surat, many of the smaller cities, because the big metros had plenty. But even places like IIT Bombay, where, you know, I mean, this is my alma mater, and I'm not saying anything against the university, but engineering students feel that intellect is the most important, and then our
Of
consciousness is
course.
limited to the head. I was one of them.
Yes.
And then we have aches and pains and all kinds of addictions which we don't realize are very embodied. So to be able to understand that beyond mathematical and verbal IQ, there is kinesthetic intelligence, there's spatial intelligence, there's musical intelligence, there's understanding in empathy and compassion. These are all EQ, emotional intelligence. There's so many aspects which, interestingly, the creative arts and particularly movement addresses all of them. You have movement, you have kinesthetics, you have interoception, what's happening inside the body, proprioception, and I'm using technical terms here to tell people who have a very strong scientific bent that this is really deep science. Understanding the body, understanding the mind is not all woo woo, but it's about understanding how to develop these faculties, if you will. Could you speak to that? What has been your experience? In my case, my poetry became better when I started moving. And then I became a better marketing and salesperson because my empathy grew. I'm not sure I'm a very compassionate guy, although I studied the neuroscience of compassion, but at least I can understand how others feel. And then I can choose to change my behavior with a little bit of humility, with a little bit of forgiveness to get closer to others rather than stay in my own little island. You know what I mean? What has been
Yeah,
your
absolutely.
experience working with, say, intellectuals, just as an example?
Yeah. I mean, the first thing that I constantly tell people whenever I begin a workshop is that the mind and the body are connected to each other. They're continuums of each other. They're not separate.
Separate.
So I give them a lot of examples. I also do a lot of activities where they see that without the mind, the body cannot exist, and without the body, the mind cannot function. So that is one thing. And another thing, like yourself, you kind of also been on the spiritual path, I guess. I took up to Buddhism a couple of years ago. I went to Bodh Gaya. Something kind of attracted me there, and I went there. I sat under the Bodh Gaya tree for the whole day, and I somehow got converted into Buddhism, and then I did ask a monk, is there a conversion process? They said, no, nothing like that. As long as you feel the Buddha in you, you're a Buddhist. So since then, I've also tried to kind of see the connections between Buddhism and the concepts of Buddhism and dance therapy. And there are many connections actually. I'm still a part-time Buddhist, because of lack of time and because I'm doing so much in the dance therapy field. uh, but yeah, that is another thing that I actually want to explore, in a much more uh, systematic way. Like, how can we use some of the concepts, ideas from Buddhism, the empathy, and then the compassion, and all these beautiful ways of existing, and working with people. I want to see how one can use it through the medium of movement. So that's another thing that I want to do at some point
It's
in my
interesting.
life.
It's very interesting you mentioned that. My foray into dance, I was never really into dance because of the stigma, or rather the image, especially when I was growing up. Oh, dance लड़कियों के लिए है. हम तो
Yeah.
बस मस्ती, हम तो कुश्ती करेंगे. So I actually shied away from the gentler forms of dance, and now I actually dance with props. Just like the Sharmana, the feminine and the masculine, what they call the there's a term for that, ardhanarishvara, or the masculine and the feminine, and being able to embrace both. So there's that
Yeah.
staccato, but there's also the flow, and then there's the chaos, and there's also the stillness. So interestingly, I went from Vipassana, which is the Buddhist meditation, 10 days of silence, and I had this strong itch to move, and my father used to dance. So from there, I went to asanas, and then I went into therapeutic dancing. But along the way, Garba is a very, very powerful form,
Of
Matanu
course. Yeah.
Garba, about awakening the goddess within, as well as the other form, which is the Krishna Garba, or again Janmashtami, and like Ras Leela, as we call it, along with the Krishna. And again, you find Bhangra and many other forms among the farming community as well as the warrior community, the Bhilwada and all. So every aspect of Indian life, I think, is integrated in music and dance, especially the Bhakti movement. Every part of the Bhakti movement, Mere to Giridhara Gopala, ecstatic movement and dance, and also the bowls of Bengal. I'm sure I'm
Right.
preaching to the choir here. You have done your own detailed exploration, but the Jainas, the Buddhists, the Hindus, and even the Sikh and the Sufis, the Darvishes. Everyone has done some amount of exploration. I'm so glad that Tripura, you and your students are exploring this in great detail and are melding the two together so that people no longer have that um, confusion around is this therapeutic or not. They have more
Yes,
clarity
absolutely.
and dispel the myths and get to the real, what is really in it.
And I think we shouldn't forget that dance as therapy existed in many of our cultures, right?
Indigenous,
You
yeah.
you look at Karnataka or Kerala, you still have those ritualistic dance forms which are used by shamans to drive away evil spirits. And what are these evil spirits? They're basically mental illnesses that
Mental illnesses.
dance therapy
Yes, yes. In fact,
talks about. So I
yes.
think dance therapy existed in all our cultures. It's just that it's become a much more empirical, evidence-based discipline now, in the way that it developed in the US or in UK. The kind of research that has gone into it, and the formation of the American Dance Therapy Association, or the one in UK. So I think these have also kind of, you know, looked at dance in primitive cultures and or rather like ancient cultures, and seen how one can um, kind of transform them into therapeutic experiences with an urban population, with children, with elderly.
And I just
So,
found out today from you that you actually, a big part of your life, early life, was not only in India, but also in Africa. Tell us about it,
right.
because Africa is like the mother of rhythms. Some of
Yeah,
the oldest
absolutely.
rhythms in the world come. Have you explored any African dance forms also?
I used to when I was young.
Wow.
We lived
Wow.
in Nigeria, and so I saw a lot of African forms. Like we used to have something called Festac, which was a festival of African dances. So there were dances from all over Africa, and it was amazing to see, like you said, the kind of rhythm and the kind of catharsis and the kind of letting go that would happen through these dances. And at that time, I was Bharatanatyam dancer. It was very interesting that I started dance at the age of 6 because I had a squint in my eye. I was cross-eyed. And someone told my parents that if she learns Bharatanatyam, the squint will go away.
What a
And it
blessing.
did go away. After 6 months, the squint did disappear because of all the eye movements that are there in classical dance. Yato hastat tato drishti, right?
Well, that's
And
true.
after that, we went to Africa, and I used to just choreograph dance. Like I'd pick up a record of Vasant Lakshmi or MS Lakshmi, and I'd choreograph dance for that. And just listen to what happened. And the moment my parents put me in Kalakshetra and I went through that whole course, I came back, and after that, I could not choreograph because I found
Oh,
fault in everything that I did.
critical.
It became like,
Oh,
this is wrong, this is right, extremely hypercritical of myself, and I stopped choreographing till much later when I worked with Chandralekha, the choreographer. She was a choreographer in Chennai who worked a lot on looking at dance in a more Indian dance in a much more contemporary manner. And so my mind really opened up working with her. And I also later formed something called Apurva Dance Theatre, which was into contemporary dance. So we explored a lot of different kinds of personal movement styles, and shapes, and we used to perform a lot. And I also found this is another very important thing, that self care for movement therapists or art therapists is not seen much in India. Yeah, self care is also very important because when you're working with clients, you take a lot of psychic, you absorb a lot of psychic material from them. And where
true.
does it go? It sits in your body, in the musculature of your body.
Yes,
And so I also look at how movement rituals can be developed, yeah, to take care of yourself. So self care, there's also an article on that maybe that I can share with you that I've written.
certainly. In fact, the little bit of science that I've read on this is the mirror neuron system. So anytime anybody is moving around us, let's say you're nodding your head, whether I like it or not, there'll be micro movement in agreement, which
Sure.
salespeople use all the time. Oh, अच्छा
Yeah.
आपको खरीदना नहीं है. You don't want to buy this. Okay, okay, you don't want to buy this. What they're doing is now they're through kinesthetics
Yeah.
manipulating the thought to say a yes. But
At a very subconscious, unconscious level.
yeah,
Yeah.
if in a therapeutic session or even in a party dance, if somebody's unhappy, somebody's angry, somebody's upset, and they're dancing, we will take on each other's emotions. Emotional contagion is a very real thing through music, through sound, and through
Yeah.
movement. We know, like, when a child comes home and the mother says, especially to teenagers, there's a, how are you, beta? And the child goes, I'm fine. No, 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 tell me how. I told you I'm fine. So the mother knows, even without hearing one word. And the reason I say mother is because mothers often are in touch with their children's emotions more often than fathers, who are often in touch with their other
Yeah.
things, but not necessarily children. I'm not trying to discriminate here, but anybody who is a caretaker is in tune. And in that tuning, as a teacher of dance or as a teacher of therapy, they become in tune with their students. Therefore, there will be that transference of emotions. So I'm so glad you've started this. Did you start it fairly recently, the self care part of it?
um, no, I did a workshop a couple of years ago, and then I just wrote an article on it based on the kind of responses I got. So yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
I think I did a workshop at the conference also on self care.
yes, I
I think
attended
you had
that.
come from, yeah, yeah.
Attended that one. Do you have any suggestion for people who have never done dance or any other, but they are artists or they are dancers, but want to cross over and understand how to use it for themselves during this pandemic in particular or any times of crisis? Do you have any suggestions on how they can get into it? One way, of course, is through the online webinars and all. Are there other things they can do? How can they
Yeah,
use this time productively?
see, it's a very simple idea, almost silly, but all you have to do is put on your favorite music and move to it. believe me, it's not about telling yourself that, oh, I'm feeling sad today, I need to do a sad dance. You don't need to do all that. Just put on music and move, and automatically that sadness will get released from the body through movement, or the anger or whatever you have, which you want to let go, gets released through that movement. So I sometimes ask people to think of three questions. What do you want to let go? What
Hmm.
do you want to reach out for in your life? And what do you want to search within yourself? What are the resources you want to search within yourself? And that
Wow.
in itself is a format for movement.
And
Yeah,
that's a meditation. I mean, really,
the
it's like
meditation. Yeah,
letting go of things. If our bag, if our glass is completely full, there's no scope. So letting go is the first step, like the
yeah.
flow. And then what is the next question you said?
The reach out. What do you want to
Reach
reach
out.
out for in your
Yeah,
life? What do you lack?
the seeking, the
Yeah,
lack,
the seeking, the
addressing
lack.
the cravings and the lack or the missing parts, reintegration. And the third one is where you said
Searching within yourself. What are your resources that you have?
self-awareness, going
Yeah,
deeper.
self awareness.
Wow, wow.
Absolutely.
And do you also do that in partner dances or in community dances?
Yeah,
So first,
absolutely. I think I got it out of a Buddhist book uh, called How to Be Your Own Therapist.
wow,
So these were the three questions that popped out to me when I was reading that book. And this is what I mean. Like, can we use some of the Buddhist ideas in our work? Because it's when you ask people these questions, they've never thought about it. And it's
true.
very important for people to answer these questions and to know what they want to do.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, Ramana
Um,
Maharshi asked his famous Niyara question, who are you or who am I? And even that one question, if you go deeper and deeper and deeper, is a self-exploration, but not an easy one because
no.
our mind tends to go out all the time. So with this one, okay, so your mind is going out. What are the things that we find yucky? Let them go. What is it that I'm seeking from the outside? Observe that and then go within. So who am I and what is going on here?
Mm,
Why am I here? So it's so amazing that there's an integration of the externalities and the internal awareness and bringing light upon who is this person who wants to do those things. We're not
yeah.
denying that there's a desire to go out. We don't want everybody cannot be a monk and it's not realistic. Many of
No.
us will end up becoming monkeys. So to be able to integrate, monkey hai to khood lo yaar, dance it out. So so being able to, I actually wrote a poem about that a while ago. I tried really hard to become a monk, and then one fine day I started jumping and ended up becoming a nice old monkey. And that's how I got into dance because it was difficult to sit for hours together. And now,
Yeah.
after having danced, it's easier for me to sit for half an hour, 1 hour, and to just meditate on that question. Who's this person who has the desire to move? Who is this person? Why am I dancing? What is the anger? What is the emotion that's propelling me to
Mm,
move today? Wow.
absolutely.
I'm so grateful we are talking again, and to people who are listening still or viewing us, we will provide links. Tripuraji, what is the best way for people to find you? Is it the CMTAI website or is it the page,
Right.
Facebook
Yeah.
page? Or how
Yeah.
else can
It's
people find you?
they can visit www.simtai.org,
Uh-huh.
and I'm on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn as Tripura Kashyap. So yeah, that's how they can reach me.
So I'll make
Yeah.
sure I give all the links, and so you can directly approach Tripura or the CMTAI, the Creative Movement Therapy Association of India, which is vibrant. What's the membership like? How many people are now members? Is it thousands
No, not really. Actually, the membership is also very low. It's 1,200 a year, which is 100 rupees per
per month?
month.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
but
we're
you
doing
have
a membership drive, and I
great.
think more and more members will
It's
come
about
in.
time I
So
join them because I've been a
yes, please do.
visitor and I will definitely join. And this is not an advertising. I always tell people something that changed my life, something that gave meaning to my life. When I got introduced to dance therapy in 2003 in San Francisco, but I was glad when I found Tripura and thousands of dance therapists all around India, thanks to the movement that Tripura began. This is not, we're not, and nobody here is trying to just make money, but to help support each other and create a vibrant community that can serve, especially during these challenging times, and have fun at the same time. Do you have any
Very
last
important.
do you have any last words to say to people before we say goodbye? Or
I
maybe
just
do a
want to
little bit of
say,
movement. Maybe do a movement exercise like you did earlier, following that finger. Would you like to do something like that as a concluding
yeah,
thing?
sure, why not? Why not?
Please.
So maybe just let your hand go up and come down. You inhale and exhale, okay? And then you open up your hand and you hug yourself. You tell yourself what a beautiful person you are. And then you open up again. And then you make a ball of positive energy in front of you. And you move that energy all around your body. Yeah. All around your head. And then you open up your hands and you playfully push this energy from side to side and you scoop the energy, you pour it over yourself. And the last bit is just bowing down to the universe, a gratitude that we're all still living and being there for everyone. Yeah,
Oh, wow. And as you can see, anybody who is watching as well, it takes less than a minute or two. It's just the basic thing is just and you can expand as much as you want.
absolutely.
This
It's
is
much
just,
slower with the breath
yeah.
and the repetition of the movement. It's just a
So
small
this was
thing
like
that
a
I
2 minute
showed you.
Maggie noodle version of it.
Yes, yes.
But this can go
And
on. This can go
I'd
on for
like to
hours.
also say, I'd also like to say that movement keeps us alive. It keeps us human, and therefore we should move. Movement is the medium we all live in, and we need to move. Yeah, and
It's
movement is
like
our universal mother tongue.
I mentioned the Ramana Maharshi question of who am I? I ask my students, what moves you? What moves you? What moves us? And what moves the universe?
Right,
You
right.
know, what moves me? What moves
Wow,
us? What moves the whole? Who is moving the planets and the satellites
absolutely,
and the stars? And the movement is so intrinsic: vibration, rotation, spinning. Uh, for anyone to think that we are starting, oh, I'm not going to move. Well, you're sitting on Earth, and the Earth is moving, and the sun is
absolutely.
moving
You're already on a spaceship that's traveling through space.
to the universe. So again, thanks a lot. I just want to say thank you, and to all of
You're
you.
welcome.
Any questions? Ask us and join us online.
Thank you very much, Shankar. Beautiful conversation
हाँ
with you.
बहुत
Yeah,
that's so
beautiful.
amazing.
Very nice. Thank you.
Thank